All right. Hey guys, Tyler here with Seller Accountant. We're in the series, How Do I Value My E-commerce Business? And in this installment, so, we've talked about kind of the basics, economics of valuing an asset. We walked you through the SDE calculator so you can understand how to value the cash flow, how to put the add backs in the right spot, and ultimately how the strength of your business is going to determine the multiple that you're going to be given on the market. We talked a little bit about inventory, good inventory versus bad inventory. And in this video, we're going to talk about different types of deal structure, right? A lot of sellers have questions for us about what are the different ways I might get paid by an investor that comes in and buys my business. So let me walk you through a couple of the things that we are learning. Forgive the rudimentary illustration here. I promise I'm a better CFO than a designer. But this little chart here, I think, explains my thoughts on deal structure. To the extent that you're getting 100% cash on the front end, you're probably getting a little bit of a lower potential upside in the deal, but you're also getting a lower risk of not getting paid. So think about this from the perspective of an investor. If I want to align my interest with the company that I'm buying, I want to let them have some skin in the game to not sell me a lemon, to have this business continue to produce good into the future. And if they're willing to hang with me, give me a few years to pay them or create kind of an earnout structure, I'm willing to reward them with them having a greater deal value. Whereas if I need to have cash now to buy your business because you're ready to be out of it, I may be a little bit more anxious that I'm going to be buying something that you're so fed up with or so burnt out with that there may not be a lot of meat left on the bones for me to make a living in. And so if you need my cash now, that's great. I'm going to have to pay you a little bit less because that's all I have because I'm trying to fund my operations. If you're willing to take some cash now plus some earnout or some other structures later, I'm willing to pay you a little bit more. And so some common deal structures kind of over here on the left-hand side of my spreadsheet. You can get an all cash deal. You literally are at the closing table and a wire or a check is involved in that closing table moment. Often, depending on how the funding is coming about, you may get some percentage of it in cash and get the rest of it in the form of a seller note, maybe over 4 or 5 or 10 years. Another comment, so you see we're getting less cash. You may have cash up front plus an earnout where the performance of your brand, the kind of growth in gross margin or the continued profitability of the brand is measured for some amount of time. It could just be a couple of quarters. It could be a couple of years. And you get a trailing earnout as a partner, so to speak, in the future earnings of the business. And then you may have all earnout where you're like, hey, listen, the way we're going to buy this brand is we're going to give you a much larger percentage of the profitability for some number of years, but we're not going to take any of the risk and give you cash up front. I would say it's a pretty uncommon structure to have an all earnout. And then the one that's getting much less common right now because of the aggregator phenomenon is a RollUp. So instead of selling you my business, I might become a part of your business. In other words, I now have this pile of value that allows me to essentially buy some percentage of your much larger aggregator fund, and I get to be an owner of this new entity. The problem with a traditional equity roll-up for an e-commerce shop, especially related to an aggregator, is the aggregators might have 50 different entities, and they might be having different Seller Central accounts and different LLCs, all held by the mother co. And it becomes pretty sloppy and messy to then try to give little pieces of equity out to each of those sellers as they come on board. And as a result, I have seen very, very few equity roll-up deals related to aggregators. And so, But if you think about it, theoretically, an equity roll-up would kind of be no cash now. I'm completely kind of in bed with the fund that bought me. And if they go into an IPO, a public offering situation here in a few years, I might have the maximum potential upside to the deal, but I also have maximum risk in the deal because if they were to fall flat or they don't run the business very well, I get punished by their performance. And so once again, just kind of putting yourself in the shoes of the investor, to the extent that the deal is going to be cash up front, I'm probably going to get a smaller deal, but I'm not going to have any risk. I can walk away. I got the final check from the company that I sold a few years ago, literally about 3 or 4 months ago. And I can't tell you how much it lowered my anxiety to know that I don't have to worry about it anymore. I've just gotten paid. And so just know that to the extent that you have an earnout or any kind of a roll up or a seller note, there's a little bit of it just kind of lives in your headspace for a few years, being like, wow, I hope I'm going to get paid. I don't know for sure if I'm going to get paid. I can't spend that money yet because I haven't gotten paid. And when the deal is done, there is some relief. There is some value there. So it's not always the right thing to go with an earnout structure just because it's worth more money, because maybe that peace of mind may be worth a little bit of money just to go ahead and get paid now. On the other side of it, though, is if you're highly confident in your products, highly confident in the marketplace structure that you have, and you are betting on the fund that you're partnering with, you think, hey, these guys are going to win, they're going to be successful, then anything you can do to enjoy the fruits of them increasing your business over time is a good thing. And there you might be really happy with an earnout, or maybe even some kind of a roll-up structure. And the last thing I want to talk about over here on the right-hand side is an equity deal versus an asset deal. Historically, when you thought of buying a business, you would think about buying the entity. You'd buy the stock in an LLC or in a C Corp, the ownership interest. That's getting less common now. Most of the deals that I'm seeing close now are actually asset deals, which means instead of the investor buying my entity, instead of them buying my LLC or my C Corp or whatever it is, they're actually just buying the underlying stuff excuse me, that the entity owns. They're buying my trademark. They're buying my products. They're buying my know-how. And the reason for that is that they don't want the liability. If you haven't been doing a good job with your sales tax over a few years, or if there's something else that might be lingering within your entity structure, your investor doesn't want to inherit those headaches. And a lot of times they'll just create a brand new entity and buy your assets away from you so that they get the assets but don't get the headache of the entity. And so that's a pretty common for deals to actually be asset deals now. So here's what I'm going to end this video, but the deal sizes that we see or the deal structures, maybe I should say, are really dependent on the risk profile of the investor and the risk profile of the person trying to sell their business. And you got to kind of do what's comfortable for you. Hope this is helpful. We're going to have one more video on this series that's going to be related to kind of pulling it all together. What are some of the nuggets that make the most lucrative deals the most lucrative deals? I'm Tyler from Seller Accountant. Have a great day.